A test. All right. Excuse the noise outside. I'm not in the studio right now. There's going to be some noise pollution. This video will be somewhat of a show. Normally, I'm kind of in that Jason Black mindset where I'm not putting on a show. I'm trying to make you smarter, enjoying some knowledge. And that's what I'm doing here too. This isn't any different, but I think it's going to be a show just because there was some interesting exchanges when I called Nam and Ross Squad. And I want to start with one thing that I just noticed because I went back to watch the video and I wanted to clarify my position on some things because there are areas where I think I will disagree with them. There are areas where I think I will agree with them, but it seems like I'm not because the position isn't known. We didn't have that sort of lay out your cards discussion where positions were made that clear. And I don't know, and and really that goes in both directions. And that's something, and I'm going to play this clip because I'm going back listening to the video. But let me give you the context of this clip because the context is everything in this regard. Because Asar is talking about how Kanye West, when he first was talking to, I don't know if he was talking to Trump or somebody else, but he first mentions Chicago. And then he goes from that to saying, and you'll see this in the clip. I don't really have the what he says earlier, but I'm just saying like this is in context with Kanye's approach in mentioning Chicago, and I think there's a disconnect because Chicago. See, my position is Kanye is essentially a complex trader, uh, maybe even an unwitting, a lack of wit trader. But I'm not really too concerned about him. I'm more concerned about the environment that would produce him. I'm okay. To me, to me that's not even a big deal. But Asar makes an analogy with Kanye, and I'm not even sure if I'd call it an analogy, but he mentioned something maybe to gain context with the Nation of Islam and making demands. Now, just listen to this, and I'm not really going to go into detail about this yet because this is just something I picked up. So, I just want you to listen to this part, and we'll see how it plays out when I call in and there's a conversation with Asar about giving people something. So, because I missed this when and I was listening to it. I don't know if I hadn't tuned in yet, but let me play this.
I mean, it's just very interesting, man.
And it's ironic that Kanye was like, I'll meet with the president today, but the first thing we talking about is Chicago.
See,
Like you got to think about that. Like, he's not coming to talk about. I don't know if he'll get to President Trump, but that's not the point. Matter of fact, I remember Farrakhan in a speech. He's always he was talking about like the Nation of Islam. When you read the final call on the back, it has the what the Nation of Islam believes and what they want. And he says that we come and we present this stuff to the United States. We know they're not going to give it to us, but you still have to make the demand. And I forgot the quote by Frederick Douglass about the demand. Nothing conceived without demand. Somebody can find that quote for me.
See, he said Kanye, it was about that. It was Kanye said, I'll meet with the president, and the first thing we're talking about is Chicago. This goes to Kanye being ignorant to the point of treasonous and a traitor because he's taking his cues from Candace Owens. And for them, Chicago is a sort of proxy for black on black violence. Through the Republicans' lens, if he were to meet with Trump, what's going to happen? They're not going to talk about reparations. It's going to be, well, black people are killing each other in Chicago. Candace Owens said it, and Trump will be like, well, we need to increase the police presence, and the police need to have the freedom to put down these killers to protect you. That's going to be the way they spin it. That's the way they've spun it for the last, I don't know, 50 years, ever since. Well, I won't say that. Chicago, and even when Chicago's crime has gone down, it's always this example for black crime and police having the right to be heavy handed. It's no way close to Black Power's meta. It has nothing to do with Black Power's meta, nothing to do with resources, nothing to do with demands that could be met. Because I don't think Kanye is, if Kanye was really going to make a demand that was worth a damn, and I agree with Asar in the sense that it wouldn't be met, you know, well, most likely it wouldn't be. If he had the position, hey, you can get the black vote with reparations, I think Republicans would consider it. I just don't think they would do it. And I don't think Kanye West is. I don't think he cares enough or he's smart enough to come with something like that. He's basically just going to follow the Candace Owens playbook and how we need to do something about that body count and black on black crime, and that will just turn into stop and frisk. That will turn into police being able to kill people on video and nothing happens. That is an easy script for the Republicans to flip. Kanye West talking about Chicago. That I don't even want that to happen. That I in no way could I compare that to the Nation of Islam, and I have issues with the Nation of Islam demanding this is what we want. No, that's not how you get what you want. But let me fast forward it because I just want you to see that in context with the exchange that I have with Asar. And let me also say, I am a student of the Amin Ra Squad. It is my pleasure to bring some type of discourse and not to be the idiot in the box like they usually have, where they'll have somebody like what's that fool, Lex Vortex, or they'll have some Hebrew that thinks that we came from the 12 tribes of Israel and shit. So I'm trying to move the conversation to Black Power because this whole thing with Kanye West is, in my opinion, so far against Black Power's meta. It's white daddy meta, if anything, that the only value in this conversation is to explore why it is and realign ourselves to Black Power's meta. So that's why I'm doing this review of our conversation, to make my points more clear and to appeal to the Amin Ra Squad for a conversation involving reparations and other forms of meta tactics for Black Power.
Well, number one, let me start with the two people in the chat. Did you watch the entire interview? Yes or no?
Hit one.
Let's start there. So for the people in the chat, if you watched the entire interview, the TMZ interview, hit 1. If you didn't watch the entire interview, hit 2, and be honest. So, but as far as the brothers in the chat, you can answer. You can unmute yourself and just go ahead and answer.
I didn't watch the whole thing.
Okay, so that I appreciate that. How about you, 42?
I watched about half of it.
Yeah.
Okay, half of it. All right. Now, the reason why I asked that question is because like I said, I did an experiment. I asked 20 people. This was the other day though. I asked 20 people who had something negative to say about whatever. I asked them, did they watch the entire interview? And all 20, I could have asked more, but I stopped at 20. All 20 said no.
Now, when I called in, as you'll hear, I hadn't heard the entire interview. Since I've heard or listened to the entire interview, I didn't watch it, I listened to it. I was driving. I gotta say, it's worse than I thought. In a sense, I can disregard the whole thing with slavery being a choice because Kanye put that in greater context, and I had heard that. I have issues with it, which I'll get into later. But when I listened to the entire interview, it's worse than I thought. I mean, it really is Kanye West, and this is where, just my opinion, I don't think the Amon Ra Squad understands modern day white supremacy and how it has a low key dog whistle black powerless message because Kanye West in other parts of the interview had a black powerless message. He apologized for saying Bush doesn't give a damn about black people. He's trying to move to this whole anti-identity politics, which is basically just anti-reparations, because America has always been about identity politics. But now, when a few black people are waking up and thinking, hey, in total, this isn't fair, um, we need some act right, we need reparations, and thinking about how to get it, it's now identity politics are bad. We're all Americans, blah, blah, blah. He even said at one point that his daughter was free until the teacher told her she was black. And I'm like, that's more, that's like, I'm not black, I'm OJ type thing. That's what I was getting from Kanye West. I mean, that's literally the type of stuff he was saying. So I listened to it and it didn't, it wasn't any better. It, to me, I stand by it is treasonous in the sense that it is anti black power. And it comes back to reparations. That's why I kept steering the conversation to reparations. Because whether or not that's what it's about for us, that is what it's about for Kanye against reparations. That is what it's about for Candace Owens. That is what it's about from the people that they are putting up with to, I think in the sense Candace Owens wants to get a show on Fox or something like that. Kanye West, he's, I'll talk to about his motivations later. Maybe I won't. When I first hear him talking about that Candace Owens is making sense and he's wearing a MAGA hat, I've seen that before. It's old. It's tired. It's like attention. It's like that. People say you want to be the smart Negro because voting. So many of us vote Democrat, so it's like I don't vote Democrat. The Republicans have some good ideas. Well, of course, everybody has some good ideas, and but the thing is, at least be able to articulate those ideas. You're not getting that from Kanye, and bigger than that is you're not getting black power concepts because a lot of this is coming from Candace Owens. And Candace Owens, her rhetoric is basically apologize, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, everything to push you away from um, reparations. It's just basically anti-reparations rhetoric. That's what I get from Candace Owens for attention. That sales, that gets you media spots. It'll get you like I just saw a video of this black Polish dude. He was speaking pretty good Polish, and he was getting hyped up because he was not really apologizing, but just talking about how he wasn't bothered by Nazi marches. because they were targeting or they were inspired by immigrants and refugees, and not specifically him or specifically black people. Like that energy isn't going to fall back on him or somebody else like him one day. You see what I'm saying?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Have you ever read Dr. Amos Wilson's Blueprint for Black Power?
I've read the first, I'd say, 150 pages.
Okay, I asked that question because, and everybody knows, I think it's like close to a 900-page book, and the entire book is about black people lacing themselves up by their bootstraps and doing for self. And so, and I understand that people want reparations. If anybody has studied anything about European history, when it comes to folks, you know that you're not going to get it. And so, in the meantime, what do you do? Are I asked this question, like, are you waiting for white people to give you reparations?
Hell no. I can answer that real quick. Reparations are not going to come from white people. They will come from black people getting them by buying politicians. One brother recently on had a video talking about how you buy debt and put a tax on it. There's so many ways to do it. We're in the reparations capital of the world. There's a bunch of ways. Now that said,
But you would still have to, would not you still have to have agency to get the money in the first place? So if you're not getting the money from white people directly in terms of direct reparations, you would either have to own your own businesses or get high-paying jobs to contribute to doing what the things that you're talking about. Am I correct?
No, the way to give reparations, I think, like the best way is mainly it's an attitude change where you're aggressive and you're just going to buy them because you buy politicians. You put your money to political.
What I'm saying, where are you getting the money from? Either you're going to get the money.
We have the money right now to buy reparations.
But listen,
we have the money to buy politicians now. It's just we aren't politically organized to do it. Or if we are politically organized, we aren't thinking like that. And that's the issue I have with Kanye.
How would it be
would have been free thinking if he was talking about that? But he's talking about he's the same. He's
so basically you're not liking him because he's not talking about what you think the world should be focused on.
It's not even so much that I don't like him. I kind of like Kanye. I'm kind of entertained by how quirky and geeky he is. It's just I'm tired of that narrative not being expressed, and then you have. Because that's intentional. They're not gonna have somebody that'll come on and start talking like Yvette Carnell. But if you sound like Candace Owens, then you have somebody like Kanye who admittedly doesn't really analyze things. He hears Candace Owens and like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, whatever. And that's what I'm tired of. Because yeah, I'm for it. See, I look at that whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps thing as being an institutional thing. The institutions are broken. And that really goes back to Egypt, but that's a long story. That goes back to having a religion that, like Ankh says, is food, clothing, and shelter instead of wait for, what I mean.
That's still, again, you're dancing around what I'm saying, and you admit on one hand, and then you try to change it on the other. In order to do that, it's still you're talking about your own agency. Is take yourself by your bootstraps. And like all the books, whether we're talking about Black Africa, an economic and cultural basis for a federated state, check out the Diop. Blueprint for Black Africa, Blueprint for Black Power, Dr. Amos Wilson. Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson. If we're talking about Pawn Sovereign by Israel Aharon, you know what I'm saying, and others who have put together these elaborate plans and things, whether it's post-traumatic slave syndrome, it all boils down to that no one's going to save us but us. And so regardless to how it is worded, it is the same thing. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You are all who you can rely on. And in what you're talking about here, the money, you don't print money. You don't have the basis for money. Money is going to come from white folks. And the only way that you're going to get it, in terms of buying politicians, in things to this nature. No, we're not that wealthy as most people think. And
You
so
don't need to be that wealthy. Look at how the NRA lobotomized Republicans to the point where Republicans are talking about arming school teachers. They don't have that much money. We got more money than NRA. So I agree. We
no,
are.
NRA is one organization, but you're not talking
NRA.
about one organization. You're talking about, do you even know the wealth gap between European people and European businesses and black folks?
Yes.
Are you
yes.
really trying to compare the meager whatever, and I like the show that Michael Imhotep and them did on that myth that we have trillions of dollars of spending power.
I'm with you right there, but that's why I use NRA as an example.
Because you don't have a political party. There's a whole bunch of things that either way it goes, you're still going to have to do for self. You can't wait on anyone. And
I'm not saying wait for anybody.
That's my point.
Like
so that's
I
what
said,
I'm saying. You said,
agree.
Listen to what I'm saying.
We agree.
You made the argument that Kanye West is coming with this pick yourself up by your bootstraps logic. And what I'm saying is that pick yourself up by your bootstraps or to do for self is the very thing that Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, Amos Wilson, every one of our Marcus Garvey, all of that is in our text and in our struggle. So I don't see why. See, this is what I'm talking about. People have an issue of where information is coming from instead of the information itself. That's why I gave the example of Charles Manson. I don't have to be down with Charles Manson to understand and appreciate on that one statement that it is true.
Because a lot of times that pull yourself up by your bootstrap stuff is just escapism. They'll say that.
So that's what I'm saying. So Dr. Amos Wilson's blueprint for Black Power is escapism.
Now, if it's like, okay, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, buy politicians, and buy some act right, so you're not a second-class citizen in the land where, I mean, let's be real. Like, this is the reparations capital of the world. Everybody gets them but us. And so it's always an excuse that's only for people classified as Black when we talk reparations. So if we're talking about initiative and gumption and effort, then let's put it to something that works. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not that he's given that speech or that vibe, or he's going with Candace Owens. It's that Candace Owens, her message is that Black people are privileged, and then you'll have that thing about food stamps, and all that is to push you away from real strategy that would give you power, because that Candace Owens herself, she's an escape. Her message is escapism.
So are you Are you saying that being on food stamps gives us power?
No, I'm saying that a pep talk about that includes food stamps in it, or a pep talk that includes or a pep talk that talks about how we're privileged, because that's why I agree when you talk about that $1 trillion of spending power, that is escapism.
But I'm saying the idea of food stamps is synonymous with the idea of dependency. So
contextualizing white guilt.
But wait a minute. If food stamps represents the notion of dependency, then us being in a state of dependency all the time, how is that empowering? How is that going to get us what you're saying? Because on one hand, what I'm hearing you between you two is that you do agree with what Asar is saying, but you don't agree with you agree with the idea, but you don't agree with who the mouth that is coming out of. I agree that you're not going to get reparations from white people. That's going to come. That's crazy talk.
You just said that we pay politicians, it's still in a white system. This is what I was going to get you. That's what I'm like. That, have you read, Blueprint for Black Power? That's usually my basis when people start talking about this, because that is like the Bible in terms of strategy. So I always ask this question when people try to talk about, well, if we get the right politicians in place, everything will be
no, it's not getting them, it's owning them. That's the thing. Like if we talked about politicians, like a lot of times we talk about hoes on the track, then that, it's an attitude thing. It's
See, I
we
understand that
never
because
had like
Claude Anderson,
that
the one whose
cutthroat
clip we showed earlier,
politics.
he talks about us only, but it's never as that's like one play on the chessboard with a whole bunch of other plays, and so you got to wonder how and why the Chinese and the Japanese and the Vietnamese have so much more wealth and power here in the United States, and they don't have that many politicians.
The Japanese did get reparations, though. I mean, it took them quite some time. But the thing is, though,
regardless, before the war, there was already Chinatowns already in the United States. Period. So this is what we're talking about. When we're talking about the Chinatowns and the street they didn't get that because of reparations. If
as many Chinatowns were burned down, they would have fought for reparations. If they were hit
shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Then the Japanese fought for reparations because of what happened to them. So
exactly, but they're not called Japanese towns. They're called Chinatowns for a reason. And you have the Vietnamese, and what's the excuse for the Vietnamese and the other East Asian folks and the Koreans and all this and what we call quote unquote Chinatown? They don't have politicians. All the
Asians ain't really holding paper like that. They're holding paper because they live on the coast where it's expensive, but they aren't owning a whole.
How are they not holding paper when they have whole towns? Like if I go downtown in the Philly right now, there's a whole section of property they own on the coast and things of this nature. There's whole streets with their language on it. They got I don't know how many banks in the in just Philadelphia, Chinatown. When I go back home in Houston, it's the same thing. Why in all the major cities, if they ain't holding no paper, that you can go and find a Chinatown, but you can't find one Africa town?
I've seen an Africa town. It's kind of I drove through an Africa town recently, so I won't say that's completely empty. But I will say though, if they faced as much sabotage,
that's Sean getting in, man.
If they faced as many
here we go,
human rights violations, then I would think that they would have done something about it, other than just they would have at least done as much as the Japanese did.
Okay, but do you at least
help build the railroad?
Native Americans got reparations.
Whoa! You know how much the Chinese had to go through to build the railroad? Do the history of that. Like, they ain't even get paid as much money as black people got that helped build the railroad. Like, they was really the last on the, so the Americans would pay the Chinese, right? And the Chinese, particularly people that was in charge of certain things, would literally give them what they wanted to pay those workers. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, man, look.
But you're talking about one violation.
Let me talk about the years building the railroad.
As black, though. I mean,
okay, but let me
talk about violations, human rights violations.
Okay,
I wish I had the history where all that happened was we didn't get paid right for some railroads.
Okay, but let me ask you this. So before we give it to Sean. So at least let's come to some agreement though. So the idea of
Okay, so I told you it was going to get entertaining. Are you not entertained? But it's still a very important topic, and it's good to have some discussion on that, because I think when the subject is moved to reparations, it's more important than Kanye West, especially because, like I said, I don't really have so much of an issue with what he said about slavery, which got all the attention. I disagree, and I'll get to that later, but it's not a passionate disagreement, because the thing is, it's not even like the context I don't have a problem with. It's him not knowing how it's going to be perceived in the environment. That's why I have a problem with him saying that slavery was a choice, because of the perception, which isn't on him, but not knowing it is on him. The only thing that, and listening to this again, I see some areas of common ground that I didn't hear, or hear some areas that I didn't hear. But the one area where I'm like, and there's another area later on where I'm wondering, what the hell is this all talking about? When he makes the point that we don't print money, I don't get that. I don't see how that's relevant. I don't see how the whole food stamps thing is relevant. That's the issue I have with it, is because they're bringing up something that's irrelevant. It's not. Candace Owens, when she talks about food stamps, she isn't speaking from the standpoint of how people can be independent. Because if you're going to talk about how black people can be independent, then it really has nothing to do with food stamps. Because food stamps isn't a matter of dependency, it's a matter of money. It's a matter of just not having enough money to buy food. So you remove food stamps and people just go hungry, but they'll live. You know, we can get rid of food stamps right now. You can have a bunch of mad white folks, but they'll live. I'm more interested in how do they not get to that point in the first place. And that doesn't have anything to do with whether you have food stamps or not. Because if, let's just say, you were to isolate black neighborhoods, they would still probably have enough money to have a food program, or they'd have like a food program through the church or something like that. So it's irrelevant. The thing is, how are they going to be competitive on a world level? And that, when I talked about ancient Egypt, if you're familiar with my political platform, I'm really simple, FTRM, and I'll get to that. But you take care of the T in FTRM, and food stamps are obsolete. And again, if it's Candace Owens, it's all about how can I have a message that will move black people to vote Republican without Republicans offering a damn thing. Because if it was a black first message, Kanye, Candace, and I'm not expecting it from Candace, but if she was interested in black power first, her message would be vote for the Democrats if they are promoting your agenda. If they're not, don't. Simple as that. And what's the agenda? I would say FTRM, and usually there could be other things as auxiliary, but, and I'll get to FTRM in a minute. Like if you've listened to me, you know what I'm talking about. The area that we kind of agree that I missed was Asar did mention that Claude Anderson said, yeah, buy politicians, but then he also said that's one chess piece. And I agree. It is one chess piece. Just buying politicians or buying American debt to tax it, as Soli Dolo suggested, or buying reparations bonds, as Max Kaiser suggested, a move to get reparations is is just one piece. I would put it in the top three. Chess, well, not one move in the chessboard, not one piece. I would put it in the top three. I would rank it as being maybe second. Like, I don't really rank FTRM other than to say M is, for media, is probably last. But in a sense, M for media is first, because the media is what lubricates your ability to make political moves of any sort. So I don't really rank it. I think it's one of those things where it's more like those real-time strategies where you pause the game and you do a whole bunch of things at once. Well, FTRM, you could do them all at once. I think everybody should, if you're going to take any sort of pull yourself up by your bootstraps argument or pet talk, then make moves that are populist moves as an individual. So a populist bootstraps move is, hey, we're going to have a political fund to get politicians that are in favor of reparations. Well, individually, I can go bust my ass working for whoever, or have a business, or have both, and take that money and say, okay, I'm going to put it to political action that affects a populist change. Either way, you're getting reparations. You're not getting it from anybody. Now, if you want to say, You're never going to get anything from white people, and that includes white people who might vote for reparations. Well, to me, that's crazy because that's saying you can't make any political moves at all. And if you can't make any political moves at all, then you cannot have Candace Owens saying that black people are privileged. And if Kanye is co-signing that, we got to look at Kanye really shisty, because that goes into why I think Kanye is traitorous, and why Candace Owens, it isn't free speech. It's the exact opposite of free speech. It is costly speech. You see what I'm saying? So, um, and I always hear people talk about owning your own business, but in listening to it again, Asar did say owning a business or working a good job, and that's more practical because some people act like your salvation is economics. Everybody has to own a business, and that's not practical because first, we don't have the economic churn for everybody to be sellers. We need more sellers. I'll give you that. That's why when I said um, when I talked about how pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is institutional, not individual, and but that goes back to Egypt. What I was talking about is the temple system. Is look, you're not going to be able to get people to change what gods they love, but I think there are ways to assure that hey, if you're going to be a church in a black neighborhood, you have to master science, you have to teach it, you have to produce people who are professional at it, and that would be the blowtorch that creates businesses and economy. That's what I mean by if you're going to give that pep talk, because it reminds me of like I coach little league football, right? You'll have some coaches that they'll have the attitude because it's flavorful and the parents want to see it that we're going to come out in a spread offense with a bunch of 11-year-olds. Ain't nobody got a big time arm like that. People ain't catching the ball like that. You can give them the best pep talk in the world, but you're not using a meta tactic. Now, I'm the other way. I'm looking at what works. Blocking and tackling at that age works. Giving the ball to somebody with some athleticism, getting and teaching guys how to block, teaching guys how to pull, how to down block, even influence block. Those are meta tactics, and you don't have to give much. I don't give much of a pep talk. I'm like, hey guys, have fun out there and give it your best and shake hands after the game. Uh, you know, if it's a championship game, I might throw in some, like the gods will remember what we did today. You know, I might get passionate if it's a big game, but for the most part, I'm like, hey, just go out there and have fun. You know, we know how to play football. We know how to block and tackle. Let's go out there. You know, put our face masks and our shoulder pads on somebody, and win the game. That's the issue I have is right there. The chess moves for power are being marginalized on some anti-identity politics rhetoric. Because Kanye, a perfect example of what I would have loved for Kanye to say, hey, don't vote for the Democratic Party because they ain't about reparations. Instead, he's apologizing for what he said to Bush. Really? So, the one thing I did want to say, though, when I said I drove through a town that was black owned, and let me also just say Asians are like 5% of the population, a little over 5% of the population. That includes all Asians. I'm talking like, um, that includes like Saudi Arabians, that includes Indians, that includes all Asians. 5% of the population, and they live in areas where if you make $80,000 a year, you might still be living check to check. Now, I was in one of those areas in San Francisco, and I'm looking at, and basically, I got a fetish. I'll be real. I love catfish. So I'm like, man, I need to see if there's some soul food restaurants around here. So I'm like, it's probably nothing in San Francisco. Hold on, I need to take this call. Okay, as I was saying, I love catfish. I looked it up on the map, and I'm thinking I'm probably not gonna find anything because I'm in San Francisco and it's hell of expensive. I don't know if black people got, and I find a soul food place, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna go to a soul food place, and it's gonna be some Asians, what I mean? But I don't care. I wanted my catfish. I was sick of fast food and all that. I wanted some real food. I wanted some greens, and some real food. So I stop at a place, and on the way there, I'm seeing RBG. I might even put a picture of this, if I can find it, because I haven't even looked it up online. I was seeing RBG, um, like not flags, but stickers around the light poles. Like I'm like, okay, I'm going to the fast food place. Well, not the fast food place. I'm going to the soul food place, and I'm in what is showing up as an African neighborhood because I'm seeing the African colors on, and I'm seeing black people and I'm seeing businesses, and it wasn't a well-to-do neighborhood by any means, but it was a street by street, business by business, mostly black-owned neighborhood in the one of the most expensive cities in the country. So that does exist. When you look at population and everything, and you look at cost of living, most black folks are not living in a place that's that expensive. So the money difference from Asian Americans and African Americans, it isn't that big of a thing as it might seem because you'll see Asian Americans are making like 80,000 and African Americans are making 16 or something like that. When you parse that out, it's not as big a difference when you look at population and when you look at the cost of living in their location. So that's what I was getting at with that. But let me continue on. And let me, I want to go back a minute and say, when I say that, and this is something that Yvette Carnell should get credit for coining, but I don't know if I said it first, but this is the first time I heard it. I had thought about it before. Is the escapist nature of the do for selfers. So Sarah mentioned how many scholars talk about doing for self. And it's not the message. I don't have the problem with the message if Kanye says it either. It's just that it ends up being the type of thing where it's like you're telling somebody you'll win at chess if you play harder. You just got to put in more effort. Not why they're losing, not what strategies are causing them to lose, not a new strategy for them. Just play chess harder. That whole Bill Cosby thing. Bill Cosby, I don't even think he was guilty. He had one of the best attorneys defending him, and he still lost in court. So it goes to how it's perceived because what'll happen, and this might be the most negative thing I believe about black people because I see it so often, is they'll take something as an excuse not to do shit. So they'll say, I'm not going to do anything that would affect populist change because people aren't doing for self. And where did they hear that? Well, that do for selfer message is always out there. As if individual gumption is what destroyed our environments. Like I said, how many Chinese cities were burnt down? How many going back to San Francisco, how those neighborhoods were redlined, how America as a whole was intentionally segregated, how race itself is just creation to segregate resources. And in the face of all of that that's coming from institutions and people making populist movements against you, it ends up being individual. And then people who are doing something well for themselves, they will escape in that as if they don't have a populist problem. And then they end up like Bill Cosby. They end up with their Negro moment because they're focusing too much on like Amber Phillips. Somebody called the police on her. Well, what did all of that focus do for women when it's a woman who's trying to put you in jail? Removing the focus to black power and just saying, hey, black people, just play chess harder. And then using the Chinese as an example, and the problem I have with the Chinese as an example, beyond that they're one huge demographic, when you look at 5%, the 5% of Asians, they're lumped in with rich Saudis that come into the country and all that. But the Chinese, and Assar did not listen to that example I gave with Soli Dolo. Because Soli Dolo's example is one of the things that the Chinese as a whole have done, and they did it as a nation, but nothing would stop African Americans from doing it as Americans, and that's buying up U.S. debt. Because that right there would have been in sync with, okay, well, what can we learn from the Chinese? They bought up U.S. debt. Soli Dolo was saying buy up U.S. debt and put a reparations tax on it. And if you need, I forgot it, like what if certain things would require nationality, you can create a micronation. And I think he was talking about Belize, where Shine from Bad Boy, his father is the prime minister over there. So that's what I mean by the escapist nature of the do-for-selfers, is it ends up just being, I'm not going to look at all of the strategic issues and the populist issues and the populist agenda against you, and let's just micronize everything to individual gumption. Then I'll create a meme or share a meme or a video of like some black chick twerking and say, see, I'm not going to think black first. I'm going to say that I'm going to sit there and argue about political ideologies and food stamps. That ends up just being
pulling your bootstrap. Now we know that's a metaphor because it's not literally. Nobody's expecting somebody to go buy some Timbs and lace them up like that for real. So there's a metaphoric expression behind that. There's some figurativeness behind that. So the idea of us pulling up our bootstraps and carrying our own is echoed, like Assar said, in the theme of Garvey, in the theme of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in the theme of Amos Wilson, and the whole people that he mentioned. And also, I'm going to extend it to the fact that of why we have a conscious community of people waking up outside of those Abrahamic beliefs of always waiting on a Messiah or Savior to come save them. And people say, nah, the helping hand that you're looking for is where? At the end of your own arm. So that whole theme, we have to agree that is a theme that we should all strive for us to, because like you just said, we're not going to get it. And so once you come to that realization,
I disagree with that.
Okay, but I thought that's what you said. I thought that's what you said.
I said we're not going to get it from white people. Like white people aren't.
Oh, I got you. Okay, you're correct. So I misspoke.
It's not. He's talking about if we use our money to pay our politicians and own them, that equals reparations.
No, not just
That's
our
not
politicians.
even what reparations mean. Reparations mean the people who did the offense repairs our nation. That's not reparations. That's just us doing for self.
Okay, then I agree.
So
but
we're not going to get reparations. So any talk about reparations is just silly talk at this point. It's nice. We want to hold white folks to the fire. We don't want to let them off the hook. But if we understand that they're not going to give us the funds to repair our nation, anything after that is lacing our own bootstraps up and doing for self. Marcus Garvey,
by getting reparations.
Elijah Muhammad. That's not reparations.
Now, if you pay politicians and you make it hot in the media, if you buy American debt and put a tax on it, that is pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, and you still get some type of
okay. We have okay. What
instead of just
okay? So the problem,
the individual.
So
that's the whole goal is to have resources that go out to a number of people.
Okay, so
what happened with Native Americans, because I can go to places where Native Americans are getting checks right now. So,
okay,
yeah, to get those checks, they had to make some political maneuvers.
So the issue
might not have been as easy for them as it would be for us, but that's life.
Okay, so the issue is not because you halfway agree and you halfway don't. So really when that usually happens, there's an issue of really how you're expressing it versus somebody else. So because your idea of pulling up bootstraps and your idea of reparations is different, obviously, from how Asar is describing it and how I'm describing it. Because you said, because I did misspeak. So you did say that you don't think we're not going to get reparations from. I said we're not going to get it at all, but you said we're not going to get it from white people. And so, but then on the other hand, you're saying let's buy our politicians and get it from white people, because Asar made the point. We don't print. We don't print.
You're kind of there, but let me just back up and say one thing. Reparations in a vacuum to me is bad business. I think there's three other things that we should hit. That's putting sciences back in our religion.
But what is reparations? Start there though. What define reparations?
Whoa. Let's bring it back. So we're gonna have a segment talking about reparations. Let's get Sean in here to kind of, so we can stay on the top. We way off now. We're on reparations, yo. God.
That's the heart of what this thing came from with Kanye, because it was about him having Candace Owens as a source. And Candace Owens' rhetoric
this is why I said if you listen to Kanye in context and from the beginning, he's been saying this stuff. Before you can bring Miss Owens into the equation. And so this is way before Kanye met her, or anybody even knew who she was.
Hey,
Kanye
he went from George Bush don't care about black people to wearing a MAGA hat, and it's not because he's politically astute on policy.
But he told you that.
Wait.
So what are you mad at?
Wait. So let me ask you. So do you want to make America great?
I'm really not that mad.
42. Are you do you want to make America great? Do you want to make America great? I mean, are you in America?
It's hard for me to even contextualize what great America is.
But hold on. Are you in America? Are you in America?
Yeah, I'm in America.
Okay. So you're a citizen, right? You're a member of this nation. Okay. So do you want to make your environment and where you live great so that because you're here, or do you have immediate plans to leave?
Oh, if you put it like that, then yeah. But the thing is, that's where and that's why I don't really blame Kanye that much, because that's how our media is. One of the reasons why, like, even though I think getting reparations is very possible, it's doable. One of the reasons why it would be a task, it would take some real effort, is because the media would not put someone who can make a good argument for it out there. But if they have somebody who can just freestyle, like, they'll put Kanye there. You know what I mean? Like Candace Owens, if she's trying to forgive, and I won't say forgive, but if she's talking about white guilt, like it actually means anything, because if white guilt exists, and we probably wouldn't be having this conversation, because reparations might be enacted, I'd say, oh, we can get it from white people.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
That's where he's coming from. And that's where I don't necessarily look at Kanye. It's the environment.
Okay, a quick question. My last question. Mm-hmm. Do you have plans to build a solid African-American nation in Africa or somewhere else in the world outside of the United States?
right? No, I'm trying to throw in by doing what I'm good at and trying to do my part in it.
I asked
And
you a
that's
specific
about it.
question.
He
But
said no.
Specific question.
to
It's either
actually
yes or no. It's either
to
yes or no.
actually build a you said like a city or a town,
And I said a nation. You know,
a
you want to
nation.
make it a if you want to make it a city state, you know, or you talking about your own complete
Yes,
state with
absolutely.
cities outside? Are you moving? Are you trying to do that outside
Nah,
of
I'm
America?
I'm I realize how in the whole I am personally, and I don't not it's I won't even say me personally, but I don't have that type of bread. But even if I
It's
did,
not an issue if
as
you
a
have
group
that
of
type of
people,
bread as an individual. Are you by yourself or are you working with others to build an African American state and nation outside of the confines of the United States of America? Yes or no?
I can answer that. The reason why to me I would consider that putting I won't even say putting the cart before the horse because we don't know how to build carts. I am more
You
interested
can speak
in
for yourself.
reforming our religious institutions, sciences back into the religious institutions, so we have the gears for civilization that would allow us to do that. Maybe not my generation, but the next. So I'm trying to lay down the groundwork so we actually have the ability to do that.
Is
That
that your ultimate goal, though? So your ultimate goal now that I mentioned it is to amass enough reparations from the U.S. government so we can build our own nation sometime in the unforeseen future, somewhere outside of the United States of America. That's your plan.
that's kind of an abbreviated version of it, but I will say this: I am definitely in favor of fixing our religious institutions as far as them mastering sciences, and I'm definitely in favor of fighting for reparations. And I can give you many different means, and it's something that we could do without a ton of political support. Put it like that.
All right, so let's because we're gonna keep moving. That's that's
And this was something that I missed because wasn't I wasn't focused on the thing with the food stamps because really, to me, I think food stamps is just obsolete. It doesn't factor in the conversation. However, when I thought about it, it's one of those things that if I was really writing down notes and dissecting instead of basically just trying to reach a clearer understanding or to produce a clearer understanding of what I was trying to say. But if I and at later on in this, I realized that I was in a debate, and I better start notating everything that people are saying that I disagree with. But if I was taking notes, I probably would have listened um, deeper to what Bujao was saying when he said that when he started talking about food stamps, because it's kind of a contradiction to say that white people are never going to get you anything and then say that you're dependent on food stamps because you can't have it both ways. Either food stamps come from your effort, your taxes, your being a citizen, being part of the system, so you're getting them just like anyone else. Nobody's giving them to you, or they're giving them to you. And if you're saying that they're not giving them to you, and that low income housing, free health care isn't a gift, it is part of you being a citizen, then the same is true with reparations. So I understand from a standpoint of dependency that you don't want to be dependent on you definitely don't want to be dependent on reparations because that means you have to be broken first. So you don't want to go through the process of being broken. You don't want to be dependent on obviously any type of social assistance. However, it's not a gift. And if you are going to say it's a gift, then you can't say that white people have never given you anything. So that's a contradiction I wish I could have explored if I was taking notes. Now, one thing that's interesting is I do agree that if we just had a vote right now, Let's say we had a vote right now, this moment. Okay, reparations would not pass. It's not hot. It's not popular. So if that's the case, then we gotta look at why it's not popular. And if you have people doing TED Talks like Candace Owens talking about black people are privileged, then you got to look at that. Then that's why it's not popular. That's why it's not hot. That's why I would agree you can't you could, well, I won't say you can't do it in this generation, but you would have to take the same type of social engineering that made gay marriage popular, the same type of social engineering that produced the Violence Against Women Act. Even though a lot of the stuff in the Violence Against Women Act was short sighted, I'd say poor government, but the general message is you don't want violence on women, and there was a problem with that. So that message went out to the point where you could pass stuff like Title IX that had negative effects on people. Like for instance, I was thinking about going to a junior college, but they lost their football program because of Title IX. So, and that's the whole thing about knee-jerk liberalism, blah blah blah. Well, knee-jerk liberalism comes from the the notion that liberals have passed laws that weren't fully thought out. You know what I mean? So, and on several occasions they mentioned the blueprint for Black Power. Now, as I said, and this is interesting. That day that I called in, I was reading it. Like I said, I read up to about 150 pages, give or take. So it was fresh in my mind. I was going to mention that, Amos Wilson talks about how white people got reparations, and he also talks about the role of the church. He defines power. So I didn't say nothing that I was saying that contradicted it. Matter of fact, let's not pretend that Amos Wilson is against reparations. You know what I mean? Like, just for verification, I did Google his position on reparations, and of course, Amos Wilson is in favor of reparations. So, I guess what Asar is trying to say is you're talking about Black Power as meta, and you haven't read the blueprint for Black Power. And I get that. Hit the books, rookie. So, I'm okay with that, especially because one thing about Asar is I don't think he's not just throwing it out there as a smokescreen. Otherwise, he would not have caught and said, "Hey, you know what? Claude Anderson did say that we should buy politicians," and that's where I got it from. And that's just one of ways to get reparations. So it's not like he's a fraud and he's not actually reading this. He, in discussion of disagreeing with me, conceded that kind of out of the blue. Like, that synapse clicked because he has read, he has studied this. So, because you just Google Amos Wilson and reparations. So I'm gonna get to playing this. I don't want this to go too long, but there's a few more things I want to touch on.
Do you have the freedom to move about, mobility? So if I'm gonna stifle you that you can't, and knowing, in the context of Ebro and stuff like that, he has a lot of pull and whatever, a lot of people will hear what she got to say. That's what he's saying. You're not going to have her on just because you think she's mean, and your interpretation of mean is just because she slice and dice you with some facts.
Yeah,
because you got to remember
mental slavery when you hot.
You got to remember that they're talking about her and her subjects without her there, regardless. So that's like us. We're talking about people who don't understand Kanye, and we don't give y'all an opportunity on our platform to voice your opinions. It would be like us trying to restrain and keep our audience in a certain mindset. We're free thinkers, and we want our audience to be free thinkers. We want them to have both sides of the story. So this is why we open up the lines to y'all. So regardless if we disagree or not, You have the platform and the voice to make it heard so that the audience, it's all about the audience, not that you're trying to enslave Candace. You're trying to enslave their minds by getting them, not giving them information. That's why I mentioned earlier, there's a whole scientific discipline on this. It's called agnotology, which is a study of ignorance. And part of go to chapter 2 of the text, it talks about the logic of censorship and how the censorship and keeping information away from people helps to enslave them mentally and make them behave in a certain way. There's a whole scientific discipline on that.
Is it censoring or is it propaganda and miseducation? Because too much of that, and it's like, well, let's get Tommy young Pharaoh and SARS.
That's all in the book. And I'm not saying that Kanye knows about this at all. But what I'm saying, this is my point exactly. He didn't have to read agnotology to know that this is going on.
This is where I think Asar just might be outsmarting himself. Because it could just be that Ebro can see through Candace Owens' message and realizes that it's a black powerless message, realizes that it's propaganda that will lead to powerlessness, because she's making a political initiative like reparations sour, pushing people away from that, and she's doing that for personal gain. He might see that, and he might not have the debate tongue to check her on that stuff. So if he's not able to check that, somebody with Kanye's intellect or lack thereof will be like, oh, he can't check her facts. When her whole argument, regardless of whatever statistical data she might have on black crime or whatever like that, which may be factual, but her whole premise is flawed when she's on TED Talks talking about how black people are privileged, because you cannot be a privileged class if you're living in the reparations capital of the world, where everything from gophers and mountain lions, when we infringe on their territory, get reparations, and capitalism, when we mess up the government, get reparations. Ebro might see that, but he doesn't know. Ebro might not see that, so he doesn't know how to check her, but he knows he's putting someone who's sour on his platform, and he might think better of his platform. It is not censorship. We shouldn't look at it like it's censorship, that we're hurting somebody because we're eliminating a message that is not in favor of our agenda. That doesn't support our agenda, especially if Ebro, he might not be strong with the debate tongue, but he might have enough sense to say, hey, I don't even think Ebro is black. I'm just picturing him in my head. Like, I think he's Latino, kind of mixed, maybe Blaxican, I don't know. But regardless, he may care enough for black people to where he's like, I'm not going to put Tommy Sotomayor with a vagina on my platform. And likewise, the Amon Ra Squad, like Wujan made the point, well, what if we didn't put you on the platform, 42? And I'm like, hey, if I'm toxic to a black power agenda, your platform is better than that. Get me off. Just like a lot of times I'm listening to y'all talk to people like Lex Vortex, and it's killing your message. It's wasted time. He's just there for attention. Candace Owens is just there so she can get between Hannity and Tucker Carlson or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's her personal thing. That is the miseducation of the Negro coming from her, and the miseducation of the albino coming from a melanated woman. That's toxic.
And I want to emphasize that the thing is,
gonna beat you up. Asar, we ain't playing with you tonight.
We got the timestamps though. All right, so wait a minute. It was something that somebody said in the comments. Man, it flew past so fast. But
I seen when he said, does the Amara Squad support? Damn, that's why I was trying to stop you.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It went by so fast. But hold up. But so Kofi, you said something interesting. Now, aligning yourself with the like. Okay, so on one hand, you admittedly agree with Kanye, but then you kind of say you don't take him serious. But you agree, but you don't take him serious, and you don't care one way or the other really. And you tired of people coming to you with the whole Kanye stuff and everything, whatever.
Sure.
So wait. So and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I don't think you have a problem with the points that he was making. But what I wanted to say was that to this back to Sean and what Asar did is that Asar listed four alternatives, four options or four alternatives or four choices. Options, alternative, and choices are synonymous. If you look them up in a thesaurus, option, choice, and alternatives are synonymous. Now they in my yard. Now they in front of my house. At that moment, do I not have at the very least, two options: to run or to just stay there and submit? Like they say, get down, boy. Do I not have an option to run or submit right there?
No, I can answer that.
Do you not have an option?
I don't
Yes,
think
you have an op. In the moment, you're gonna do what you feel is right for yourself.
No. I'm not. Don't make the option for me. I'm just asking you, is that option available?
I'm not. I'm just saying whatever your self-preservation leads you to.
Okay,
So
right. But you admit that I have at the very least, and I ain't going with all four, but I have at the very least two options. And this happens to us all the time. Like for example, if you're standing somewhere and this big old dog comes up on you and shocks you, like you don't know the dog is there until you actually see it, and that this dog comes charging at you, you have an option right there. You can either stand there and hope the dog is not after you and look and gonna run past you, or you gonna run right there. Because your instinct, your adrenaline gonna kick in, your fight or flight gonna kick in. So if these white people are coming in my yard and I heard a big commotion beforehand, and now they in my yard, I have at the very least an option to run, or an option to stay. And they telling me to get down, boy, get down. I can either get down or I could run. So, and I'm only showing you this because earlier you were wrong when you said that they didn't even see it as an option because they were going through it. And I just painted a scenario of somebody being approached on, and there was options there. So let me ask you, do you think that when people were actually being captured, if it wasn't in their sleep, do you think that they just stood there?
No, I can tell you exactly what happened.
Okay, good, great. So enlighten us on the general. Now, obviously, this is not true for every situation, but give us the general
it's not
scenario.
true for every situation.
Right. Give us the general scenario of how a slave was captured. Go for it.
Initially, the very first slaves that were I wouldn't even call them slaves. The very first Africans that they were actually kidnapped off of a canoe boat going down the river.
Okay.
They were kidnapped off the boat.
Okay. So let me ask you. So during that act, do you think that they rowed their boats towards the kidnappers, or did they try to get away?
They never seen them coming until they got up on them. That is the way it is written based on the primary source.
Okay, and what happened? What happened? What happened?
They came in there and snatched them up out of the boat.
Okay, so do you think they fought or swung or kicked or anything, or they just?
Of course they did. They had to do something. They just couldn't get away if it's more of them versus it is you and two other people.
Okay, so out of the options of choosing to go with no resistance or trying to get away, you're saying that they try to get away.
Correct.
So they exercise one of two options, right?
Correct.
All right, I rest my case.
Good job.
Still don't got nothing to do with the Kanye West, man.
Here's it. Let me just jump in right here, because it's something that Tariq Nasheed said once, that from the point of view of white people in general, we're just one big nigga. And that's my main issue with the slavery thing with Kanye West. I have a larger issue with Kanye West than that. But to me, that whole conversation has no value unless you're looking at it from the point of view of how this propaganda affects your political causes. Since we're going to be seen as, and I'm not saying everybody, but in general, one big nigga, then it only has value, this conversation, if you're generalizing. And if you're generalizing, then Nobody chose to be, well, I won't say nobody because that's generalized, but as a populace, they did not choose slavery. They chose to end slavery, and they did it. So we don't even, we can just look at what happened. And that goes back to the issue I have with Kanye West going on a platform, and we haven't had a political agenda since Jim Crow. And here's Kanye West repeating the same old rhetoric that I've heard from talk radio to newly woke Republicans who want attention and all that. And it's just the same old thing. There's no political agenda. There's nothing that would develop any type of power. So I just want to ask, what would have been a better conversation for power coming from Kanye? Because to me, he's way on the other side of that. He's way outside of the meta when it comes to Black power.
Not really.
Okay, but Arsar asked you the question earlier. Have you read at least the blueprint for Black Power? And you said,
I said about 150. I'm reading a bunch of stuff at the same time. So
all right, you got about 800. You got about 800 pages to go before you can ask that question. No, but the reason why I bring that up is because if you read that book, that text, and you actually listen to what Kanye is saying, and you take Kanye, like I made this point before many times, that really it's Kanye that people just don't like, and I'm saying just say you don't like Kanye, but if I like,
I don't
watch.
like Kanye.
Okay, okay, but now
if we can accept that and move on.
Yeah,
I didn't get that. I don't understand. Like, see, the thing I did is I was wondering, well, what is the opportune thing? But because it seems like they're defending Kanye without bounds, and I'm like, because it ain't about me not liking Kanye. I don't really know him like that. It's about the message it presents. And I don't understand why they're going back again, like I said, to the blueprint for Black Power. Because in the 150 pages I read, like I said, you could just look up Amos Wilson's stance on reparations. I honestly, and I can look at the what the chapters are about. The first 150 pages were in sync with FTRM, Family Temple System Reparations Media. So I will continue to read it because, like I said, I was reading it that day. It's among a bunch of other books that I'm reading. And there might be something that changes my mind because there's a lot of wisdom in it so far. It's just like, I'll give you an example. He makes a similar argument about reparations as Martin Luther King in the I think maybe like page 30, where he's talking about, that early in the book, where he's talking about how America is reparations for white people. That's how it began. Segregation and investments, and not just money, but also competence, like to show people how to do something with the resources. So it's like the first time I've heard Wu Zhao deflect, because the reason why I went on the offensive, and I didn't really, it was interesting how I did it, because it wasn't planned other than to just say, well, what is the opportune thing that you would want Kanye to speak on? Because the way I'm seeing it is he's making people classified as black look servile in a way, So, because that's how people are going to take it. Like, we are one big nigga. Tariq Nasheed is correct on that.
Squad and Kanye. That's all he basically was saying. He might not say it as smooth as you did in context like that, but he was basically saying that you had a choice. He was right. You just agreed to that. Okay. You just agreed. Seriously.
I want to read something real. Let's pause for a second.
John, let me just.
Okay. I understand my agreement.
Right.
So
that's all
the agreement is that other people had the agreement to fight. And
Okay.
then once he said 400 years, so no matter who fought, when he says it was a choice, that means in his context, that means nobody fought and it was a choice to say Yasa Massa, Nosa Boss.
Okay,
For
but that's not.
400
But that's not.
years
But
continuous.
that's not. But that's
So
not.
is that the? So
But that's
how
not-
is that not the answer you want me to give?
No,
You
no,
see
no.
what you're doing?
Yeah, no.
You see what you're doing?
No, no.
Because that's the answer you want me
wait a
to
minute.
say,
No,
but I can't
hold on.
say that.
No. When you slowed it down and explain, I get what you're saying. I get it.
But hold on, we just read from Kanye that he was talking about Harriet Tubman and Nat Turner. So how did he didn't know there was revolts? Matter of fact, I quoted a song lyric from him that he did on the Charlemagne interview, where he was talking about he jumped off the Amistad. He knows the revolts. He's not ignorant of the revolts. Y'all are ignorant of his knowledge of the revolt.
No, I'm not ignorant of his
You are
lyrics
ignorant
at
of
all.
his
I'm not
knowledge of
ignorant
the
of his
revolt.
lyrics at all.
No, you are ignorant.
His lyrics now are cool.
He
See, what
said
I am talking
know
about
about the
right
revolt.
now.
Hold on, and I can read from Kanye right now that contradicts what you said about him. You are ignorant of what he knows. That's the point I'm making. I'm not saying you're ignorant, period. I'm saying you're ignorant of what he knows about revolts. He's already mentioned the revolts of the enslaved Africans. And
What
so
was Kanye's last two albums? Because you coming at me as a way of dominance, so you know what is his last two albums?
What is his last two albums? The title of his last two albums, the beats, the breaks. What is that?
Pablo.
Pablo.
Yeah, so like, how can you come at me at a place of authority on Kanye West and you don't know his album?
No, we're not talking about his album. We're talking about
But
what
why
he knows
was
about
he
the
trying to
revolts.
tell
Wait,
me
hold-
I'm not a fan of Kanye. You can't.
No,
just
he's
come
not. He's
in
not saying you're
without-
not a fan. No,
and
no.
jump back and
no.
say we not talking
No.
about this.
No.
And then the brother was just telling me I'm not a fan of Kanye, and I don't.
No.
He's
No,
actually
he's not.
First of
he's
all,
reciting
First of all, I can tell
Kanye
you,
lyrics. You
Yes.
guys are reciting Kanye quotes, but you can't tell me his last album.
hold on. I didn't say that you
It's
weren't.
Life of Pablo.
I
In the
said
Jesus.
He has the lyrics and he wrote it and he's mentioned this in
And
his
it's Cruel Summer. We getting Cruel Winter this year.
Hey,
Hold
hey,
on.
let me-
What are we talking about?
Okay, hey, brother iPhone. Let me ask you, what song? Name the song where Kanye used the word Amistad in. Chirp chirp, chirp chirp, chirp
big
chirp,
fan.
Yeah, but I can name the album.
Chirp,
And
chirp.
you say name
Hold
the
on,
song.
chirp chirp,
So
chirp chirp.
Lyric.
So
Lyrics.
hold on. I just listen.
Hold on.
I just wanted to quickly
That-
show
that-
you
that's
that
what-
none everything you just said
you asked
is
me to name a song from
Hold
a
on.
specific
Yeah.
album.
yes.
You gave me Amistad. You didn't even give me the verse. See, I'm gonna let you know what you're doing. You
Right,
didn't even give
right.
me the verse. You didn't give me a reference. So I can't look it up. You just gave me a word. I just said give you the album. Mine was way easier.
Right now. I'm about to
Yours
give
was kind of impossible.
hold on.
Like, oh, I'm just gonna say name the song. He said Amistad.
Hey,
Hold on.
Yeah.
Here's
by
the
what
lyrics.
he's presented
But
to the
okay, so
Kanye's ghostwriter is.
Here's the lyrics.
He has
Here's the
that
lyrics.
his music.
Hold on. Here's the lyrics.
So now you got ghostwriters.
Hold on.
I'm
no, I didn't say Ghostwriter.
Bruh,
I
bruh.
said name an album. You gave me one word and tell me to find a song. Just like me saying, find me a Luther Vandross song, and it's a Pacific song, but find the word love in it.
Okay.
He has
So-
Can
So-
you do that? Like,
now
you
that-
laughing, but can you
Hell,
find
Hold
a
on.
Luther Vandross song
Turn off the light.
with the word my mother in it?
You know.
Do that.
Hold on. So now we have the
Come
lyrics.
on,
Here's
bro.
the
Y'all
lyrics.
throwing up straw mans, and then I guess you saw me steals. I guess y'all getting ready to debate somebody.
Yeah, you
No.
right.
Hold on.
No, but hold up. But wait.
Talk
I
over.
pick game, like
He don't want this work. This is why he's trying to talk over. Here's the lyrics. Parents are the strippers. They strip their kids of their confidence. Teach white dominance. Question your common sense. I've been washed in tradition. Now I'm a rinse. Hopped off the Amistad, and now I made him a god. That's his lyrics, the one he spit on the Charlemagne interview. So this is I already cited, another comment where he talks about the revolts, and he mentions this revolt in his lyrics.
That's cool, bro.
So the
I mean,
notion-
it's great. It's great.
So what is that?
notion-
What?
That's
So what? So
Wait,
what? So
you
what
know
does that
what?
tell
That's
us?
cool.
So what does that
I
tell us?
respect that.
What does that tell us?
I respect that.
So what does that tell us? This is before the TMZ interview. What does that
No,
tell us?
I know he said a lot of cool stuff before that, but the light that he has on him now, I mean, shit. Like Hitler said some cool shit before he killed all them people. It's the same game. You see what I'm saying? Like it don't matter what.
So
He
so
said some
here-
cool shit in the past. You say some stuff like that today. People emotions change. It's just like I could be your friend right now and come rob you tomorrow. You won't be my friend the next day.
so-
You can't
so
say,
how-
"Whoa, he really held me down back in the day." Like, come on, my nigga, I don't know him.
Hey. So from the Charlemagne,
Like, nah, you gotta keep that
Hold on.
game, my G.
So the
Don't just
Charlemagne
bounce
interview
over that game.
and to the TMZ. You see, this is the trick that what's his name?
Yeah, and he walked into the TMZ, and what you were seeing are the same people. Did you ever pull up that Twitter picture or that Instagram picture where he holding the
go ahead.
white
One
guy
at,
holding the white power sign over his
all right,
shoulder?
one at a time. One at a time. Go ahead. Sorry.
Let me see that picture. Let me see. Can
Yeah.
we verify
This
that?
is why I say hip hop has never been conscious.
Okay, but while y'all looking at the picture, let me. Okay, let me just read. Let me read what I had. What I've had.
Wasn't as stupid.
Okay, let me read what I've had on my screen for about 2 minutes. Okay.
I'll even say it had some smart MCs.
Okay, but hold on, let me read what I have on my screen. Let me read what I have on my screen because this is relevant to the comment that was made earlier. We have a person named Wendell Pierce, and he says more to discuss. He said, yeah, right, from the Wire. He says more to discuss at Kanye. We didn't choose bondage for 400 years. We revolted, insurrection, resistance was a constant. One of the biggest in New Orleans. They tried to erase it from history. Know your truth. Read. Now, a person comes back right after and says, it's Flamingo Galactical, whatever. He says, you're combating Kanye saying that slavery was a choice by highlighting slaves that chose to fight for their freedom. Let that sink in for a moment. So what I'm emphasizing is, brother, on the iPhone, you did the exact same thing that Wendell Pierce did. You are saying that there was no choice, but yet there's slaves that chose to fight because you brought up the revolts, and that's the same thing what Wendell Pierce did in this tweet right here. And so we have to understand what inconsistent logic is. And that statement, all I was saying was that that's a contradiction. It's inconsistent logic. Either they chose to fight or they don't. I mean, either they have a choice or they don't.
Wujiao, all you got to do is change the context by taking a 0 off of 400.
And say 40 years? What do you mean?
Yep. Because if it's 40 years and it's not going to come off as that America's one big servile Negro, it's going to be like, oh, they went to war. But the reality is it was always a war. So it's, it's how it comes off. Because like Asar was saying.
So did people fight or not? What was their resistance all the way? Because remember, Sean gave me an example of on the ground real time being kidnapped scenario. And Sean said that, like, he gave the example of the canoe and how these people came and kidnapped them before they knew it. They were right up on them and all that. And Sean gave that scenario. So from that scenario all the way up until the end of slavery, were there people fighting and resisting all the time and constantly?
Of course, but that is not how America thinks. America sees
that's
Kanye putting
okay, but
years.
Okay, did they choose to do that? Okay, did they choose to do that? Obviously, they chose to do that because we're sitting here talking about some past tense stuff, which is history. It is a matter of historical record that there were approximately 312 uprisings and slave revolts and so on and so forth, approximately. So obviously, throughout the history of slavery, there has been people who chose to fight.
Right. But that is not what was presented. That what's presented is because the America as a whole doesn't know slave rebellions well. I learn a new one every year, it seems like. So when you have the emphasis on the 400, it's basically saying
No, the era of time, because slavery slavery is not even documented like that 400 year thing is almost confirmation that stuff is being used in a more analogous or metaphorical sense, because really the whole idea, if you listen to what he said right after it, he still thinks we're in slavery. And see, this is why I posted up on my on Facebook and stuff. I asked, do people feel like slavery has evolved or speciated and stuff like that, and it still goes on under a new form? And everybody who chimed in on my post said they agree, basically, that slavery still exists.
Yeah, the entire video is like 4 hours on the Amon Ra Squad's channel. If, for whatever weird reason, you're subscribed to me and not them, and the only reason I can think of is how they've been flagged down like 5 times. Having 42 with the Amon Ra Squad is like the most hated people on YouTube squared. I mean, you got me with all the dislikes, you got them with like 5 flag downs. I'm talking channels, not even videos, which is crazy. So that's check the video out. If you're not subscribed to them, do so, because they're thorough. I just fear that had I not brought the conversation to reparations, it wouldn't have gone there. And that is exactly what it was about at its core, because it was about Kanye co-signing Candace Owens. Now, what I'm going to show you, to me, it's something that deserves to go viral. I'm about to show you a clip of me in the car reacting to Michael Medved and the Young Turks, but mostly the reaction to Michael Medved, because the reaction to Michael Medved was live. I'm listening to the radio live. And the way that it applies to this conversation is that conservative ideology as it applies to black people, it always goes back to reparations. Michael Medved was doing a review on, and this surprised me because I don't really listen to right-wing talk radio. I used to listen to it a lot. But he's doing a review on This Is America, Danny Glover. And you'll see, I'll let you listen to it. And it will have its own video, and when I upload the video, share it, because this is all about what was going on with Candace Owens. Because one thing I took right away, like when I was doing Black Power's Meta, I'd already read at least 50 pages into the blueprint for Black Power. I had listened to Dr. Mayat's, she was doing a video series on it. And I listened to some of that. And it talks about the definition of power, and it's basically being able to do something. Power is a combination of competence and resources, which will allow you to do, and I say this in Black Power's Meta, it allows you to do something that you couldn't do without it. Now, when you listen to Michael Medved, notice how he starts to make that same black privilege argument for Danny Glover. The same black privilege argument that Candace Owens was making. Excuse me. Just listen. And then look where that leads to. And the reason why I say that Candace Owens is anti-black power, she is pro-black powerlessness, is that is the exact same direction her message is going. And when Kanye co-signs that, he is co-signing black powerlessness. So watch how I predict this, because what you're going to hear is live. This is me listening to the radio, and I predict Michael Medved and the Young Turks, but mostly listen to Michael Medved because that applies to this video right here. And when I upload this independently, share the hell out of it, because it shows that I know these people. I predicted this to a T. So listen to that and be ready for that independent upload. Okay, stick with me, y'all. Michael Medved is going to talk about Donald Glover in that video. Stick with me, y'all. Stick with me, because I saw this shit coming, didn't I? Because I used to I don't want to turn it down. I'll mess up the radio. But then, you know what? I'm just going to turn it off for a minute. Just stick with me. I might have to cut out some of this. I used to listen to a lot of talk radio, a lot of right-wing talk radio. I know who Medved is. He is somebody who is so gentle and palpable with his white supremacist views that it wouldn't surprise me if he, in some context, would be in favor of reparations. But because that context is removed, I'm expecting when he does this review of Donald Glover's video, was it This Is America? I'm expecting everything to be anti-reparation code. That is my prediction. So I'm gonna listen to it when it comes on, and we'll see where I'm at. I'm just driving. I don't listen to talk radio anymore. Hardly ever. It's just my the cord for my phone speaker isn't working, and when I first got the car, because I don't listen. I like music, but I'm not gonna listen to the radio stations out here. So, like the music stations. So it was tuned into a talk radio station. With me, it's either going to be sports or politics. This time, I guess it was politics, so I'm listening to Michael Medved, and he said he going to talk about Childish Gambino. So we're going to hear how my impression of right-wing talk radio, coming from a black power theorist, a black first individual, and my prediction is that everything he says is going to be, end result, no reparations. And this is interesting considering Donald Glover said, you talk about free thinking. He said one of the freest thinking things I ever heard. He actually said something, and I agree with him 100%, but just because I know how it plays in the media, I don't think I would say it. And it's true. He said that white people don't want to pay reparations because they're lazy. And he said something else about reparations. I don't remember. But damn. Talk about flipping the script. So let me see if he's back on. He's still got the commercial going. Yeah, well, let me see. I'm trying to think about what he said while I got some time. Donald Glover, Childish Gambino. It was, but you talk about free thinking. That's something that somebody like Kanye could not say. The costly thinkers could not say. The costly thinkers wanting to be free. All right, here we go.
As one of the most important statements ever about our
I hope
country.
you can hear it.
It's a music video called This Is America. And it's headlined over in Salon in a review by D. Watkins. It says, yes, this is America. Donald Glover makes us confront our country's violent horrors. And then the subtitle subheading is, as Childish Gambino, Atlanta creator Donald Glover shows us how ugly America really is. So how ugly is it? The song that he's written and that he performs, and he performs it bare-chested, wearing slacks, wielding a gun, shooting some kind of captive who was wearing a hood, and then shooting to death an entire church choir. But first, the church choir is there supporting him.
I like how African this song is.
And okay, I'm sorry. Let me stop there. What they're saying is, yeah, 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 go away. Yeah, 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 go away. And then the deeply meaningful lyrics. We just want to party just for you. We just want the money just for you. It sounds like this.
Come on, Mad Van. You ain't grooving to this song, Mad Van. Don't tell me the message goes over his head. If it does, he's playing stupid, because
Stop.
we'll see.
What he's saying is, this is America. Don't catch you slipping up. Don't catch you slipping up. Look what I'm whipping up. This is America. Woo. Don't catch you slipping up. Don't catch you slipping up. Look what I'm whipping up. And then they continue. I gotta carry him. Yeah, I'm gonna go into this. Yeah, this is Gorilla.
I bet Mad Van is behind that mic grooving. Then when he started talking, he tightens his cheeks.
Okay, what that just said was, yeah, this is America, woo, A, guns in my area, word, my area, I got the strap, A, I gotta carry him, yeah, I'm a go, this, ugh, yeah, this is Gorilla, woo, yeah, I'm a go get the bag, yeah, I'm a get the pad, and then this. And it continues, and what this shows is he is later pursued by a group of people. He takes out an AK-47, he guns down this black church choir, which is dancing in his behalf. What's fascinating about this is people who have seen the FX series Atlanta, which is wildly popular and critically acclaimed.
I never heard of it.
7% fresh rating over Rotten Tomatoes. Donald Glover, the same guy who performs this song as Childish Gambino, and part of what I think is trying for in this very intoxicating and hooking song.
Oh, he said it was hooking. I knew he was grooving.
Typical person of the thug culture who may be delivering and dancing the way that he is because of the influence of pharmaceuticals.
No, now it went over his head.
We'll get to the continuing debate over that and whether this deserves.
Oh, now it went over his head. I thought he might have been there.
A masterpiece and an indictment of our entire country. Meanwhile, a quick word for relief.
Turn it up
factor.
some.
If you've been feeling pain or stiffness or soreness, if
You had
you
to throw
can't
in the commercial.
climb the stairs the way you used to, if sometimes twisting open a jar lid in the kitchen is just too much for you, it causes pain, or you're rolling over in bed with pain at night, no reason to put up with it. Go get Relief Factor. It's just $19.95, gets you a quick start, which provides you 3 weeks supply. You take a few packets a day, 3 usually, and it has an almost immediate impact. Most people report that within 4, 5, 6 days, they feel a very measurable difference, a reduction in the pain. This is without side effects, and you know what? It's just $19.95 for 3 whole weeks, and 80% of the people who get Relief Factor or get started with it end up getting more. Go to ReliefFactor.com, that's ReliefFactor.com, or you can call them toll-free at 1-800-500-8384. That's 1-800-500-8384. We'll be right back. This is America, Masterpiece.
Okay, he's back, and so am I.
This is America, and which has been viewed about 35 million times. It's some stunning number. I am not sure that's the right number, but I think it's in the right ballpark. It's a cultural phenomenon, and
Okay.
it's one of those things where I've watched the video a couple of times, and there's no question. It's directed by the same guy who worked with Donald Glover, who is Childish Gambino. The same director as appears on Atlanta, and Atlanta is much more autobiographical than anything in this video about the real Donald Glover. The real Donald Glover graduated NYU with a degree in dramatic writing, and he got a job almost right away after he graduated from 30 Rock.
Here it's coming.
The
Privileged
person who
people.
plays on Atlanta is another extraordinarily bright, talented
That was
guy.
the spin. I knew it was coming.
And his
He is representing
on the TV series.
black people in totality in that video.
He's dancing, and it's sort of a sinuous, and as people have commented, almost feminine kind of dancing. It's not hyper macho. And the one hyper macho.
That is intentional. A lot of this went over his head, but you know what didn't go over his head was that he had a college education and his parents were, you know, and he was
on why it's not safe to be
oh, listen.
a black man in America. Except here, the main black individual you see, it's true, the victims are black too, including the church choir that he guns down entirely.
Doesn't that have something to do with Dylan Roof, though?
Communion with him. Some of the critics say, "Oh, well, this is a reference to Dylan Roof."
There you go.
It's not a racist, hideous mass murder Ku Klux Klan sympathizer who guns down the church choir here. And
It's a dichotomy between Dylan Roof and a whole bunch of other things, including violence within black people.
I just checked my following listen. You motherfuckers on me.
That's a reference to the doping and not so doping intoxication of capitalism. Because the dope came in between when he hit the joint. Medved was talking about how he's high on amphetamines. You projecting stuff that, because he talks a lot about the amphetamine epidemic with white folks.
Part of what he's saying here, according to people who tried to transcribe it, is America, I just checked my following list, and you go tell somebody you owe me. Grandma told me, get your money, black man, black man. Get your money, black man, black man. Get your money, black man, get your black man. Get your money, black man, get your black man.
I don't know if that is a reference to reparations, but it sounds like he's taking it as such when you use those two words, "owe" and "me."
Get your money. Is this a plea for reparations?
Bingo! Did you hear that?
The difficulty about this.
Did you hear that?
And how murderous our culture.
Did you hear that? You're not talking about reparations, but who is?
And it's something that we talk about on the show a lot. Is it a horror that we still lose thousands of people every year to murder? Yes. We lose far more people to suicide, almost twice as many. And this vision of a world that is constantly getting worse and people are gunned down. And
did I not call that out?
We have made tremendous progress.
All that was in that video. He found the one thing that had to do with money, didn't he? And I'm telling y'all, that's why I did that video about how $3 trillion in reparations over 30 years ain't shit for America. We pay that in white supremacy damn near every 5 years at least. We owe the people who own our debt that money in white supremacy. Amazing. Do I not know these motherfuckers?
Hey, Michael, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I just want to make 2 points real quick. Okay.
Do I not know these motherfuckers?
You appear to be wearing some sort of black in the music video. Okay, so I read online that
now we got the callers in here.
Old Confederate war pants used in the Civil War.
Okay.
And that's on, like, he was
The slacks?
He's really trying to make a racism point in the song, which brings us to the next point that he can't really relate because, like you said, he has been so successful, and he's trying to bring something.
See, as always, black privilege. He's been so successful, so he can't see other people's point of view.
Well, again, could he be?
I'm done. See, that's what I mean. I know these people. I used to be basically a white conservative. I know these people. With them, it is about the money. It is about reparations. I did not call this shit out. Could I not have called it out more than I did? My God. My man. And now he's got a caller, and that's back on there. It's clockwork with them. And that's why I say that video and when he said that white people are lazy and that's why they don't pay reparations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
That is free thought. Candace Owens is cost you generational wealth thought. It ain't free. It's cost a nigga thought.
And I almost have to put earplugs in to be able to work with them. But
oh my goodness.
They don't really understand what they're listening to. The music has such a catchy beat that you can't help but listen to it, and they're just getting brainwashed with this garbage.
Well, again, this is the point. That's why I read the actual lyrics, because it's very hard to understand. And at the same time, there is...
You caught the message when it came to reparations. It's very hard to understand. He had trouble understanding everything except for "Oh me" and "Get Your Money, Black Man," even though "Get Your Money, Black Man" was probably had more to do with chasing capitalism than reparations. But I'm not saying it didn't have something to do with reparations, because since Donald Glover talked about reparations, so maybe. But what did it mean to Michael Medved? I'll rest my case. I'm done. Later.
Why don't you just ask Home Advisor? On what?
Okay, we're going to double or nothing. I'm going to play the Young Turks, because I just got a notification saying the Young Turks is having a show on the same video. Double or nothing. I'm going to predict that they don't mention reparations. Instead, they had mentioned panaceas and acknowledgement, because that's what you typically get from liberals. Republicans are anti-black power because money is power. So when it comes to reparations, they will find it, and it's always why it shouldn't happen. Or they'll actually, at times, they'll make an argument for it, but it'll be something like, well, maybe we should give black people or descendants of slaves. They always reduce it to slavery. Forget all the other human rights violations. They'll say, maybe we should give them free education, which it ends up being a form of mental slavery, or potentially. So I don't really trust that. I'm not, to me, that's like, you steal from me, and now you want to turn around and say, oh, well, how about if I teach you something for free? I'll teach you how to steal from other people. The hell with that. So
president says they will negotiate with 5 countries still in the deal, and one of those U.S. allies, France, is pledging to work on a broader agreement. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the president is...
Oh, boy. So this one I can't do live. I can't do a live reaction of, because I'm in the car, I'm about to go somewhere. So I'm going to listen to it on my headphones. And if I'm wrong, I will say, hey, the liberals are less predictable. They were talking about reparations too. If I'm right, I'll put a link to the video and you can check out the panaceas and the acknowledgement and the sympathy, because that's typically what you get. They're about the money too. Because you notice they are about the money too. And there are some exceptions. I don't believe in that whole liberal boogeyman thing. All that is you intentionally telling yourself not to think and be discerning. There are some liberals that are about black empowerment. Mainstream position isn't. So that's my prediction in this case with the Young Turks. It could go either way with the Young Turks. But if I'm a bet man, I'm betting that we're going to get some panaceas and some sympathy cards when they respond to this video. And it'll probably get a lot of accolades and all that. Liberals seem to They're more into the music, at least on the front. I bet you Medved was grooving. I know he was grooving. So, in a minute later, ciao. Yeah, I watched the Young Turks video. 2 for 2. 2 for 2. They did not mention reparations. I'm gonna let that video play. Well, actually, I'm not gonna play the video because I don't want no copyright sweat, even though I don't think Young Turks would do that unless this shit goes viral. Then it might make them look predictable, at least, because they didn't mention reparations. And it was a lot of acknowledgement and sympathy. The interesting thing is they understood everything in that video practically. They understood that video better than me. But they didn't mention reparations at all. So no solutions. They didn't even really mention a panacea, but they do that. Like the type of solutions the Young Turks will mention is they'll say cops will need to be punished, or they'll say they need better training. You know, I'm with you on the punishment, on the training. I'm like, I don't know if that really matters, because how bad is the training to where they would do some of the things they've been caught doing on video? So the punishment, yeah, that should be obvious. But to me, it's that right there. Let that be an example. And I told you I know these people. That shit was live. There's no way I could predict that. If my tape adapter was working, I wouldn't even been listening to right-wing radio. I don't listen to it anymore for that very reason. I already know it better than it knows itself. When you got those young right-wing dudes and dudettes, I know what they're gonna say. And when you got people like Candace Owens that are on that tip, I know what she's gonna say too. Because I've been there, done that. I know them as well as I know anything. So then they're simple. It's not saying much. They're really simple. They're really predictable. We got to learn. We are between a rock and a sunken place when it comes to ideologues. Especially if you're thinking power. If you're thinking power, this is a perfect example of what this is all about. This is a perfect example of why I am okay with Ebro not wanting Candace Owens on his platform. Because he might not be hip, but he knows what's up. He knows something's up, I should say. He might not know what's up, but he knows something's up. I'd be fine talking to Candace Owens anytime, anywhere, because I can cut through the bullshit. And I would tell her beforehand, I'm like, this is how I'm going to cut through your bullshit. And you know what would happen? If she got the chance, she would avoid me. She would get that call from her handlers, and they were like, you know what? You want to avoid this guy. You don't want to fuck with him. That's why I'm disappointed at Kanye. Because brother Danny Glover, imagine if he would have, I won't even go there. I'm just going to let it, I'm going to let this play. And you can just see how different it is, how they speak on the video compared to Michael Medved's values.
Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, released his new music video and song this weekend, This Is America, and people are very excited about it. There's a lot of symbolism and commentary that we're gonna get into now. Now, we can't show you the video because of copyright, but we're gonna show you some screenshots and go into some of the most pertinent and important symbolism that is present in this video. So the first image is of him shooting this man here. And what's interesting is in the beginning, he starts dancing, right? And some of his dancing is very exaggerated. Some are saying that it is a character of a character. A lot of people are saying that it resembles Jim Crow, and you can see that image now. Where he is being compared in that way. You can see a lot of even the stance is very similar there. And so he's in this stance while he shoots this man. Nothing happens. He gives the gun to somebody. They take it in a red cloth. They're treating the gun very nicely. And then the man is sort of dragged away. So a lot of people are saying that that's like a commentary on gun violence in America, how we really put guns on a pedestal before human life. And I think we have seen that time and time again. And that's really, Donald Glover's commentary on this.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a brilliant video and an excellent political commentary, social commentary on America. It's not an accident that it's called "This Is America,"
right?
And so first of all, I want to end the debate as to if he meant it. Of course, he meant it. So when he shoots the guy, nobody cares about the guy, but then they care about the gun and they treat it so gently. That's obviously a statement on the current state of America. His exaggerated dance moves are an obvious reference to how America views blacks historically as entertainers and are happy to have them entertain them, but their actual bodies, their dead bodies, are less relevant and don't get the attention. And he really emphasized that throughout the video.
Yeah, you can see that a lot throughout the video because a lot of what he's doing these very popular dance moves that were made popular by people within the black community. And he's doing that at the forefront while in the background, so much is going on. So we can go straight to TA-72 where you can see him dancing around where all of this violence, there's a police car, all of this craziness is going on in the background, which is really, to your point, Jang, talking about how we're happy to elevate black entertainers. We're happy to appreciate black culture and appreciate black music. But then when it comes to violence against black people, nobody really cares. Everybody's focusing on what's on the forefront. And that's very problematic in our country, and that this is America.
Yeah, and so the dichotomy of how we treat black entertainers versus the far more common African-American experience in this country is what he's pointing out again in a way that I think is amazing, saying like the real problems are in the background and no one cares. And in fact, they'll actively fight against it and fight against fixing it. But as long as you're dancing in front of people and entertaining them, they're like, okay, that's good, we like that. And then of course there's the Charleston reference.
Yeah, so where you can see this real back and forth in the video between joy and pain. And so there's these, choir members, you think they're just singing the chorus. He comes in with what looks like some sort of semi-automatic weapon, and he's dancing and then just shoots them all without even blinking an eye. Keeps on dancing the bodies are left just to remain there, whereas the gun again is taken carefully away from him and he remains untouched, unscathed, which is, similar to what happened in the 2015 Charleston shooting, where this man just went in, shot up a church. He was not treated, he obviously went to jail, but was not treated forcibly or anything like that.
So the famous story about how they treated the Charleston shooter was that cops, once they arrested him, took him to a Burger King and got him a meal. And so that got under a lot of people's skin, very understandably. And so people said, well, a choir, and is that over the top? No, the Charleston shooting happened at a church, at a Bible study. They were at a Bible study, they were at a church. It was a joyous moment. Guy came in, murders them, and walks out, and then the cops give him Burger King. And so, of course, it's a reference to that, and well done again.
Yeah.
And part of the meta symbolism here is he's saying, if all you're going to do is focus on us singing and entertaining you, well, then I'm going to put it in the song, and I'm going to put it in the video. Perfect. I love that.
Yeah, everything in this video is so genius. Even the next part, he has, he says, this is a celly, that's a tool. Okay, and so that's a reference to Stephon Clark, but also the fact that people are now using cell phones to really document what is happening within the Black community, especially police brutality against them. And it's so great that he talks about that. You can use this as a tool. And I love that he does that. And then the last scene is him running through this extremely dark hallway with his eyes bulging. And many are saying that that's a reference to The Sunken Place, a reference back to Get Out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on in this video, but it is genius. I mean, all the symbolism is there. And I mean, I watched it at least 5 times, and every time I felt like I noticed something different and something new. And I'm probably missing still half of the symbolism that he put into this.
Oh, yeah, I am too, and I hope one day he explains it all, or maybe he doesn't and leaves it as a work of art. But so the Stephon Clark, of course, was shot by the cops in his own backyard. He had a cell phone, and the cops said they shot him because they were worried that it was a tool. And so they thought it was a tool that he was using to break into cars. It turns out, no, it was a cell phone, and he did not have any weapon at all. And I don't know if it's a reference to The Sunken Place when he's running out, or just a commentary on African Americans running from the police. And oftentimes people will say, why were they running in the first place? And after you've seen all the carnage in the video, who in their right mind wouldn't run?
Yeah.
Right? So either way, incredibly well put together. And it had this funny effect on me. So his series, Atlanta, is really well received. It's got a ton of great reviews from critics, etc. But I just, like, it's hard to keep up with all the shows and stuff. But after watching this video, I'm like, no, that's it. I'm gonna go back and watch Atlanta.
I believe it's the
is
same
awesome.
director. I believe it's the same director who did both of them. Yeah, I mean, he's amazing. He's so multi-talented, and there's so many things in this video. Another aspect, one thing I want to bring up is he has the white horse and with the cloaked henchman on it, which is a reference to the apocalypse. And he's saying, "This is America," and that's kind of how I feel every day. But I can't even imagine for the Black community that is going through all of this, just constant violence and just disrespect by our country.
Yeah, and it's apparently the first horse of the apocalypse, and it's in the background while he's still dancing. And everybody's paying attention to the dancing while the apocalypse has begun. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.